Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Tuesday, 29th day of November, 28th day of Cheshvan. Here we go. The Ramah says that it is an appropriate thing for Jews to have two different salt shakers, one for milchik meals and one for fleishik meals. But he didn't really say it about salt shakers per se. He said it about salt containers when people used to dip into them. So he said, look, the food is getting dipped inside of them, so for sure some milchikness and fleishikness could end up on those salt containers, and therefore he said it's a good idea to have two separate ones, one for milk, one for dairy. One for milk and one for meat. But Rav Belsky says that he did not mean our salt shakers, because a salt shaker doesn't really have to touch the food, and he said it would be possibly okay to use one salt shaker for both meat and dairy. Rav Belsky did say, though, that if children are using the salt shakers and they're less careful, when they want to salt on something, they're going to salt right on and touch it and everything. And therefore, if kids are using the salt shakers, there should be a dairy one and a meat one. And some people always have the custom to have a separate salt shaker for dairy, separate salt shaker for meat. So you may want to consider doing that. Generally, whenever you buy salt, you don't have to have a hechsher on your salt. The only kind of salt that needs a hechsher on it is seasoning salt or seasoned salt, and that's because there's other ingredients in it, and those could be non-kosher. For Pesach, though, it is highly recommended that you get salt with a hechsher, and that's because stuff sometimes happens with the salts. For example, we do recommend to people that you should not use iodized salt. Iodine itself is like totally fine. That's not the problem. It's just that in order to keep the iodine well inside of the salt, they would sometimes use things like dextrose, and dextrose could be made from cornstarch. It could even be made from wheat sometimes. So therefore, certainly don't use iodized salt on Pesach, and certainly try to buy any salt with a hechsher on Pesach also. Rav Belsky tells stories of how it was found sometimes that the place where the salt was ground was a place where the wheat was ground on the same grinding thing. And people are going to go and use that salt for Pesach. So be very, very careful when buying your salt, especially for Pesach, that it does have a hechsher. But year-round, it does not need to have a hechsher. Here's something you may never have heard of. It's a custom. Rav Belsky says that when entering into a new home for the first time, it is a good idea to bring in candles, sugar, salt, and matzah. I'll repeat that. When entering a new home for the first time, it is a good idea to bring in candles, sugar, salt, and matzah. I don't know why. It must be some mystical custom. You may want to discuss this with your rabbi if you're in a new home situation. And that's it for today. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.